Hello and welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci. I'm your host, Darci Smith, also known as Career Coach Darci. We are here to get down and dirty about careers, uncovering salaries, wild stories, backgrounds, and more from guests with some of the most eccentric professions each week. This podcast is presented by Onomy. Welcome back to the Down and Dirty podcast with Darci and Raimee. She's basically a co-host at this point.
Basically, I'm just here for, I don't even know, shock value? I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly really love your facial expressions. So if anyone watches this on YouTube, it's so funny. Whenever I'm talking, I'm always looking at your face to see what kind of expression you're going to give me. And it really feeds my ego.
Oh, good. That. I know. I'm glad. I feel like when we're in the studio sometimes too, and I see those clips back, I'm like, what am I doing? What is this face? But,
yeah. So this week we actually interviewed Ryan, my boyfriend, also known as my roommate. Most people know him as my roommate. Some people know that he's actually a roommate, lover, and friend. He's pretty cool, but he did give me, I just want to jump into this right away because it's very important for the interview. He gave me some things that, because he's so analytical, he was like, Darci, I was thinking about it this morning after we interviewed, and I was like, please, now he's going to get mad at me that I'm saying this, but it's still funny. He's like, I could have said so much cooler stuff and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to hit you with some real quick lineman facts because I feel like they're really important for us to get into the interview. So number one is he's a lineman, which he climbs power poles and works on electricity. It's the top 10 most dangerous job. See, look, facial expression.
Wait, why did I think lineman? I'm like, oh, he plays football?
That's what everyone thinks when I say that. And then I realize oh, I need to say exactly what it is because a lineman would mean football in normal world.
Crazy. Okay.
Okay. So top 10 most dangerous jobs. And then also he does tell a story in the interview when he talks about a piece breaking on him and it could have created this really hot fireball, but he wants me to really drive home that the fireball, the arc flash, can be up to 35,000 degrees. And to put that in perspective, the surface of the sun is considered to be 10,000 degrees. So it's 3.5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. So
okay, no one would know. Wow, what?
Very, very important to the story. So definitely stay tuned and listen to that interview because we get into obviously his work, but we get into our relationship and it's really fun.
And also I heard that this job, because it is so dangerous and niche, it's a great salary, right? Or it can be. So I think people would want to know that. I was shocked when I heard how much it was.
Right. He talks all about it in the interview too. So he actually gives numbers, cool. Which we love him for that.
Love that.
But anyways, what did you do this weekend?
I'm having one of those, days where I don't really remember what I did this weekend. So it must have
nothing
not been
too memorable.
I did go to the farmer's market, which I love, Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. I had a very chill weekend. What about you?
Yeah. I went home. So Bakersfield is home for me, which is 4-ish hours from where I live. So I drove home. My best friend is having a baby and, so we got to shower her and it was really nice to be home and see everybody. And I was actually, so I stayed with one of my friends that has a few kids in the home. And I literally woke up and was so happy to be around kids. Am I getting soft? I don't know.
Wait, I know. Is this a sign that you're ready for?
I don't know. Everyone keeps telling me I say everyone, it's been 3 people that I've met that say for some reason at 32, specifically when you turn 32, you get, if you're going to get it, you
get
the
kind of fever.
The crazy urge to oh, I need to have a kid. And this year I'm turning 32. So maybe there's something to that because I literally was Susie Homemaker. I woke up, I was chatting with the kids about their school and stuff. It was 6:30 a.m. I'm making them breakfast. Their dad comes out. He's like, what the heck? He's like, you didn't have to do this. And I'm like, I know, but it's kind of fun. We were cooking eggs together, fed the dogs. And then I was telling my friend Ashley, I'm like, this was so much fun. She's like, yeah, but now you get to go home. I'm like, true.
Now you get to not have to do it every single day. Yeah, that sounds so nice though. It's being the homemaker,
right?
A little change of scenery.
I loved it. I was like, this is so nice. And the kids are so sweet in the mornings. They want to cuddle and they're all cozy and in their little blankets. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe I do want to have kids. And then I got home and I could just do whatever I wanted and didn't have to like give a kid a bath. And I was like, maybe not.
I know. I feel like that's been like an internal debate of yours on social. You've been talking about like, do I not?
Yeah.
I think honestly, there's like discourse around like, oh, girls need to do it by 35. I think it's like not that. That's not true. I think it's by like 37.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm going like, if I can go 50, I'm going 50. I'm going to Halle Berry it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. No, I definitely, it was cool. It was so nice to be home. And I get to see them again in a few weeks. We're going to go up to Oregon and have like a little friend getaway up there. So I'm super excited. And then this weekend, I'm coming into town to Los Angeles to do some podcasting in person. So super excited for that. And we have some like really cool guests coming up. Someone that like just created canned wine. So I'm like, what is the process of that? How do we even get all those license and whatnot? Like, and how hard is it to actually have a product to push out that like has to go on shelves in stores? I can't even imagine. Like the world right now is so digital. So like to create something from scratch that needs to be in front of someone to actually grab when there's a million other products just like it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so fascinated.
Is she or he going to bring some for us to try?
Hell yeah. I told her, I was like, please bring a few cans of the wine so we can drink some. I mean, obviously our sponsor, June Shine, might be upset, but it's okay.
It's okay. We're replacing them. I'm so excited for that.
Are you going to watch the Super Bowl this weekend?
I like to call it the Superb Owl because, you know, I don't know. But I will probably watch. We're having people over and I'm going to make the Michigan in me is going to make some buffalo chicken dip, which is like so Midwest. Have you ever had that?
Yeah. Well, I've had probably a version of it.
A version of it, yeah. I feel like some people I tell in California don't know what it is, but it's clear in the name. But I'm going to make that. So I'm very excited for the food aspect. And, of course, the commercials. And isn't Rihanna performing? So yeah,
you're like, of course, the commercials.
I love the commercials.
I do too, but I feel like I'm so into the game that like God, I sound so pick me right now. I'm such a big football.
So into the game.
I love the game. Oh my, go Birds, whatever they say. No, I'm just really into Hurts, to be honest. Like I keep watching videos of him, the quarterback, and he's just so fine. Oh my gosh. But yeah, and then I'm like, I have to go pee during the commercials, so like I never really watch them. But now that you said this, I'm gonna pay more attention. Because I want to be a commercial girl.
You can watch like a recap of the best ones. Sometimes they're just always kind of wacky and weird. So
yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, I have high hopes for Doritos. I feel like they always do a good job. Shout out.
They do. I am excited.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now I want to get into our career column for the week.
Yeah.
I love when you. Yeah, let's go. Okay, the first question is, how long should my resume be? I get this question so often, and so I actually put up a poll yesterday on my Instagram, and I also did a poll on LinkedIn because I felt like there's a lot more people, sifted through resumes on LinkedIn, and the consensus was majority of people are fine with nothing over 2 pages. So for anyone listening, as long as your resume is less than 2 pages, and I'm talking about, obviously there's specific industries, like if you're in government or if you're in education, it's more common to have a longer resume. So you have to put like your publications and things like that. But for typical corporate work, we're going with no more than 2 pages. I'm sorry, no more than 2 pages. And if you can get it to 1 page, do so, but don't eliminate things that are important to the job. So you want to have the things that highlight the actual experience that relates to the job. And you don't want to have like size 9 font and smush everything just to get it to 1 page. That's not what we're looking for. I also just want to reiterate that most companies are now using an applicant tracking system, also known as ATS. And so that's parsing it for you. So they actually don't have to look at the resume. The computer system is pulling out all the things that they need from your resume. So if it's over 1 page, it's okay. But if one of your friends says, hey, can you shoot me over your resume? It would be nice to just have a 1-pager. So hopefully that makes sense. So 1 to 2 pages is the overall theme. The next question I had is, tell me about yourself. This is the most commonly asked question in an interview and pretty much everyone's worst enemy because it sets the tone. Raimee's like,
I hate that question.
Head nodding. Right when you get into the interview, most likely they're going to say something like, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And so I just want to give everyone sort of like a thought or a template to go off of, so you're ready to go when this happens. The first thing you want to start with is just, hi, my name is Raimee. Hi, my name is Darci. Just start with your name, maybe where you're from if you feel comfortable sharing that. So I'm from Bakersfield, California. You can show your personality here. Sometimes I make a joke about cows because there's a lot of cows in Bakersfield. So I'm like, you've probably never heard of it, but there's more cows than people. And then I jump into what I'm passionate about or what I love doing. So I grew up always wanting to play soccer. I always knew I was going to push myself and make it to a Division I soccer team. So if you're someone that's a writer, maybe you say, I've always had a passion for writing and always wanted to tell stories, whatever it is, right? Something that you're passionate about, and then go into what you're currently working on. So here's what I'm currently doing, and maybe throw in a skill or two, and then round it out by explaining exactly what you want to be doing in your next role, and make sure it coincides with what the role wants from you. So whatever that job description says and you know about that role, just tell them like, my ultimate goal is to do X, Y, and Z, and make sure it's tailored to that position. And everyone has a hard time landing the plane, like finishing up this question. So at the end of this question, always say something like, and I'm really excited to learn more about this role. And that's an easy way to just kind of end it so you don't keep rambling. So
yeah, or if you're like me, I always end by saying, so yeah. No. So
sometimes I think I did a video on that. I think I did an Instagram video literally saying like, don't end with, so yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's me. But
I just love having you here. It's such a good thing
to be aware of, because I never thought about it before you posted that. And then I realized I do that all the time. And I hate being asked, tell me about yourself, because it's so vague. And I never know if I should give my whole life story. Like, should I include, I went to college and studied this, and then I got this job? Like, I don't know. It's so much, but I don't know. Yeah. I like the passion, currently working on, excited about this role.
Yeah, keep it simple, keep it easy. I mean, if there's certain things you can sprinkle in, if you know that maybe you looked at the person's LinkedIn and you saw they also went to the school you went to, or they're from a similar town. Like, I mean, obviously if those things are there, use that to your advantage. But for the most part, keep it simple. You know, you don't want to sound robotic, but you definitely want to somewhat rehearse it so you kind of know the flow and you know what you're saying.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. So let's get into the interview.
Woo! Let's go.
We need to stop doing that. Ryan, welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
How do you feel?
Feel good. How are you feeling?
Good. Thanks for dressing up for me.
Yeah.
You're wearing a hat.
This is the pretty much my attire. Black shirt, black LA hat. This is
that works.
We're matching.
So we are matching. Usually I have a bio prepared for my guests, but I think I know enough about you to where I can just kind of shoot from the hip. We'll see what happens. Everyone, this is
7 years, so maybe.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that. We're just roommates. Yeah. So we've been living together for 6.5 years. We moved in pretty quickly. So, but yeah, we've been together for about 7 years. Ryan Carmona is his name. He is my roommate, otherwise known as boyfriend, I guess. And I kind of like him. So you're going to get to know him a little bit and his background. Just a quick bio. He grew up in, this is actually a quiz for me. He grew up in Santa Clarita, more specifically, Saugus. And he moved to Chile. I have to say with an accent. He moved to Chile and opened up a CrossFit gym with an ex-girlfriend of his. We'll get into that. And then he moved back and started line school. So he's a power lineman, trebleman, which he'll explain what that is. And now he's also still a lineman, but he runs the recruiting company with me as well. So Ryan, can you just repeat what I said better? Just give us a little background where you're from and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm a lineman, trebleman. Went to line school, went to apprenticeship for 4 years. After graduation of apprenticeship, was a lineman for about a year. Moved to South America. Started a CrossFit gym down there. Learned Spanish, did the whole thing. Sold that business, came back to the States, became a lineman again, And then now, as of like 3-ish years ago, became a troubleman.
Nice. Can you explain what a troubleman is and actually explain what a lineman is? Kind of walk us through that, because I feel like many people don't know about it, but it's a great profession. I had no idea when we first met, which by the way, we met on Tinder. It was back when like there was no other dating apps. So we met on Tinder, and I remember you like we were first meeting up or something. You were telling me what you did, and I was like, oh, he's like a construction worker. Like I had no idea like what a lineman really does. So can you just give us like what that is, and then also what you mean by apprenticeship? Like, do you get paid to go through the apprenticeship? How much do you get paid? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll start from the beginning, and then kind of answer those questions as we go. So
yeah, can you do it with a lot of gusto? For my
yes,
yeah, okay, thanks.
Yes. So with the apprenticeship, so yeah, it's just like anything else, in the sense of learning while you work. So you get paid to go over there, and it's a step-by-step program. So as you come into the organization, you start off with the minimal tasks, and then every 6 months it builds up and builds up and builds up until eventually you become a journeyman. So throughout that time period, it's 4 years. In my specific apprenticeship, it was a 75% attrition rate. So 25% of the guys that started made it. So
75% of people didn't make it all the way through the 4-year apprenticeship.
Exactly.
Wow, dang.
So
and how many guys were in the apprenticeship? Or like on average, when people go to line school, like how do you know like what the typical amount of people there are?
It's kind of different for each school. And each school is kind of different. But as you start an apprenticeship program, depending on what company you join, there's about 30 guys. Okay.
And you're getting paid. Can you share what you made in that apprenticeship time when you weren't actually a lineman yet? What were you making a year?
Yeah. So as you first start off, you're probably doing like 120.
120? Really?
120. Yeah, for the first year.
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And as you kind of progress, your pay steps progress as well. So like before you graduate, you're probably doing like 150,000 ish, if not more than that, depending on what company that you're at.
And that's because of overtime too, right? That's not base pay.
Yeah. So base pay, let's say when you first begin nowadays, it's probably somewhere around 100K.
Wow.
Yeah. But then when you graduate, you get a big pay bump as you graduate.
And you didn't go to college?
No.
Right?
No. No. I
just really
college for like 3 classes or something.
I just really wanted to drive that one home. Okay, so no college, no college necessary. I just got someone that messaged me the other day and was like, what should I do if I don't want to go to college? I don't have a college degree, but I want to make as much money as possible. And in my head, I was like, maybe you should be a lineman. It's a male-dominated industry, right?
Yeah, definitely 99.9% male-dominated.
If you could stop moving, the camera keeps shaking.
It's because I'm on this table. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. We're in the same house right now, just in different rooms. I just needed to set the stage for people. So, anyways, proceed. So, how many females do you think are linemen?
Over the country?
Yeah.
Maybe 100 to 200. Maybe.
Wow. And let's compare that to how many linemen there are in the country. Obviously, these are rough numbers, but
30 to 40,000, I would assume.
Wow, that's
so
wild.
Very few female. Yeah.
And I don't know if we've really broken down what it is. So can you explain what exactly that you do?
Yeah. So linemen climb power poles, and they work on high voltage electricity. And so that's stringing new conductor, that's setting poles, transformers, reclosers, a bunch.
You're like speaking so much jargon right now.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, when you go and flip on your light, there's a lot of things that have to happen, right? Okay. So power has to be generated, right? And that happens in places with water coming down, like turbines and stuff. So power is generated. It then hits a transformer. It's transformed into a higher voltage. The high voltage, the incredibly high voltage, is on like towers. So see, that's like 500,000 volts. Mm-hmm. So that travels long distance and then hits another transformer in a distribution station. And then that's stepped down to like 12,000 volts, for example, right?
Yeah.
From that 12,000 volts, it goes onto poles and then hits a transformer that looks like the trash cans on top of poles. and that transforms down to like 120, 240, and that's what feeds houses. So to turn the light switch, it has to come from generation all the way down the line, and then that's how we get power in our houses.
Okay, and when you climb the poles, do you work it like when the electricity's still going, or do you guys turn off the lights and electricity and then work on the stuff?
Kind of depends on the situation and the company. So like my old company, it was constantly on, and so you just work around that, and there's certain work procedures that you do to be able to work it hot. And then there's other companies that respond to emergencies, and oftentimes when it's an emergency, the power will already be out because there's something that happened.
Okay. And then just to kind of go back a little bit, after you get through those 4 years, what can someone expect to make money-wise in this job? I know there's a lot of overtime, so that can fluctuate, but give us like a range of like someone who's just cranking out a bunch of overtime, like what are they going to hit in a year versus someone that's probably just like doing the normal base pay, maybe a couple days of overtime here and there.
Yeah. So let's see.
And you'll have California numbers probably, so that's also going to be a little bit inflated.
Right. So I'll only have California numbers. So let's say a guy municipality. So like like Los Angeles is a municipality, and it kind of varies. It could be, your smaller cities and stuff like that. You'll get paid a little bit less just because of the way that overtime functions. But let's say you just topped out as a journeyman lineman. Probably base salary is going to be like 130-ish. And then depending on how much you work, double to triple that.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's, so you know how much I work. I don't work all that much.
Yeah. He has a business to run with me.
Yeah. So I don't work all that much as far as, except for storms. I like working storm. That's really fun and exciting. I don't work as much planned overtime. But yeah, last year as a troubleman, which is a little bit different than a regular lineman, but as a troubleman, I made 300. And then there's guys at my work that have literally close to double that.
Wow. That's wild.
So, but those
do you
guys
know
like
of
work, right?
Do you know of any guys or anyone that's made $1 million in a year?
No. I heard some rumors one time as far as like, so there's work overseas, and they were doing like endangered hazard work. This was years ago though, maybe like 10 years ago. And I think the guy was going to somewhere in the Middle East and running power lines. But that's all I've really heard, not here in the States.
Gotcha. And what's the gnarliest thing you've ever worked on, or like where you felt like, okay, this sounds bad, but like maybe your life could end? Like it's obviously very dangerous. So like, has there ever been like crazy stuff where you're like, man, like this is, some thoughts are running through my head right now of like, okay, this is a hairy situation.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those times when you start to feel that it's kind of distracting. So you kind of have to just like put that stuff aside while you're doing what you're kind of trained to do. But you end up mitigating a lot of hazards, and it is very dangerous work. There's just some things you can't plan for. Like the other day, I had a piece of equipment break on me. And it's kind of like, there's really no other ways I could have done it. It's just I had my PPE on, and the situation ended up fine. But the thing broke right in front of me, and instead of, causing a fireball or anything, it just broke. So, but like other than that, as far as those kind of thoughts, like, when you're on a line crew, you've got people watching your back, your pole partner, he's up there, you're supposed to be watching him while he's working high voltage, he's watching you. And so there's some checks and balances there, especially guys from the ground calling up, like, so for instance, when you work on high voltage, you're supposed to be covering this high voltage, except for the one specific piece of equipment that you're working on, right? So if some guy sees something from the ground, he'll call up to you saying, hey, make sure you cover that phase, make sure you're looking. So it's kind of like another set of eyes. When you're working by yourself, it's a little bit different. But yeah, the situations, you have the experience, and you get yourself into these situations, and you kind of, sometimes you have to take a step back and like look at the full picture, think about things. But yeah, for the most part, it's dangers are mostly mitigated.
Yeah, that's good. And I feel like it's gotten so much better over the years with like better safety equipment and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about this today in preparation for this call.
You prepared for this? I do love you.
minimally. So there's, I mean, electricity and the trade hasn't changed all that much throughout the years. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much been the same. But there are little things. So like the belt that you use to climb up the poles. Now I know that it's in California for sure. I don't know if it's across the country, but you have to use a certain kind of belt that goes all the way around the pole. So it used to be that you had the ability of cutting out, is what it's called. So when your gaffs, the spikes that you use to climb the pole, when those things cut out, you just fall, right? So I was thinking about sometimes either in my career that I've seen, like, you know, as a first step apprentice, I remember I was on a pole and I was looking over at my buddy. He was in my classmate of mine. He was climbing up, and his task was to cut that pole with the chainsaw, kind of working his way down, right? Well, it's a bare pole. Somebody had left one pole step in there. So he was going to top the pole. We cut one chunk. One chunk came down. He started climbing down to move into his next position, and then he cut out. And so this was before those belts that wrapped around. So we just had like a literal belt that wraps around the pole, but there's no safety there. And so he started sliding. So it was a 70-foot pole, and this pole step was at 50 feet. So he slid a good 20 feet before that pole step caught him, because he didn't catch himself. He didn't cut in. Sometimes you can cut in with your gaffs once you cut out, but he didn't cut back in. The pole step literally saved him, and he would have been, you know, on the ground. So
I remember you telling me a story recently about a guy that like kicked his other partner like off because he saw him getting like either electrocuted or something. So he like swung and like literally kicked him and was like got him away from it, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of a unique situation in the sense that it was on transmission, and for any linemen listening out there, it was grounded. So I don't know how many linemen listen, but it was grounded, right? And so he was working in between his grounds. He was following his work practices, but just the nuances of working on that specific voltage and that specific conductor, you have to kind of keep continuity. And so his mind was somewhere else, and he ended up cutting the conductor, and, you know, he started getting locked up by the conductor. So it's kind of a weird...
electrocuted?
Yeah,
locked
exactly.
Up?
So,
okay.
So basically there's a conductor right there. He cut the conductor, and electricity is trying to make its way through that other path, right? Mm-hmm. So his body became the path because he was holding on to both sides. Right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So anyway, so he cut it, and then there was nothing he could do because he was locked up on the conductor. And so his pole partner saw him and kind of swung around and kicked him off.
That's wild. Dang.
Yeah.
I feel like
he got burns to his hands and stuff and went to the hospital, but I think he ended up
He's okay.
Yeah.
That's wild. I feel like, people don't realize how dangerous that is. And you'll just be like driving around and people just knocking on your truck, like, turn my lights back on. Like, just, you're like, I'm trying.
Yeah. It's interesting because you'll roll, like, especially in storms, you'll roll upon like a lot of people that have had power lines down in their yard. Mm-hmm. And they're very just kind of brazen with it, like getting very close to it. And
they don't realize like how serious that is.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't. We're not like really taught that, right? And
sure.
I don't know. We're taught like to like stop, drop, and roll. But what do you do with when there's a electric like line down? Like, I don't know. I'm just like, call somebody. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
we're getting a whole lesson on electricity right now, but I want to move into kind of something interesting, I guess. You moving to South America, and like, what was the impetus for that? It was just kind of like you got a wild hair and you wanted to try something new. I'm assuming you were, I should know, you were working out and got really into CrossFit, and then that kind of led into wanting to run a gym and open it up and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just topped out as a journeyman lineman, 2013, I believe. So basically, when you top out as a journeyman lineman, you have a ticket just from the union saying that you're a journeyman lineman, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, you can be hired on just about anywhere as a journeyman because the need is so great. So realizing that, I was a journeyman for about a year. I'd been doing CrossFit all throughout my apprenticeship and a long time before that, right? My ex-girlfriend at the time
Shout out.
Had a
She
extended
for sure
family.
listens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So she had extended family in South America, and I think I was like 27-ish, 26, something like that. And yeah, knowing that I had that journeyman lineman ticket in my back pocket, essentially, I did everything. I planned exactly what kind of equipment I would need, how to start it, got all the certifications necessary, loaded everything into a shipping container, and then eventually shipped that, my truck, all the equipment, everything down to South America. Got off, and then kind of
Didn't know Spanish.
Yeah, had to learn Spanish.
I was like, you learned it while you were there, which is so impressive. And then you were like teaching CrossFit classes in Spanish, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
wild.
So yeah, for the first 3 months, I ran around with like a little Spanish to English dictionary because it was like 2013, 2014.
Google Translate wasn't really a thing as much. Yeah.
Well, the nuances of moving to South America specifically in that country, Chile, you have to have what's called a root, which is like the equivalent of a social security, to be able to open up a phone line. So as you're kind of coming over on a visa, you have to go through all your applications and do all the things before you can get that, like an investor visa or temporary visa. So that's when you're issued your route. So until that point, you don't have one of those. And so I was running around with a little dictionary for a while.
Nice. And then you sold it, you came back to the States, and that's when we met.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's get into that because obviously that's what everyone's here for.
Yes.
How much you love me.
So much, babe. So much.
Wow.
So much.
What's your favorite thing about me?
Favorite thing?
Don't think too hard.
Nothing really comes to mind. So, so I tend to be like a little bit more like brooding, introverted, like a little bit like deep thinker, where you're like happy and like happy-go-lucky and like, you know, bubbly, very personable. Those are the things.
Keep going.
Oh, that's sweet, huh? Valentine's Day is coming up.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot to tell you I won't be hanging out with you because I did book an appointment to get a tattoo. So
that's perfect. I didn't get you anything, so.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Wait, I think it was our second Valentine's Day. You came home and you had it in like an actual gift bag, and I was like, oh my gosh, he actually got me something for Valentine's Day. Okay. And I opened it and it was a package of sausages, but like not in a sexual way. It was like literally because I liked. It was because I liked these certain like they were like brats that you would like grill, and I liked them. And you're like, yeah, I got them for you for Valentine's Day.
Who doesn't want to love a good brat? You know what I mean? Especially for Valentine's Day. That's
not us anymore because we can no longer eat pork.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
That was we stayed at Airbnb and like fell in love with these two little piglets, and now since then I haven't eaten pork. Have you?
No.
Yeah, we've been and we used to like buy bacon. Like we used to be that type of household, and now, nope. It's really sad, actually. Okay, back to us.
Yes.
Back to us. So we met on Tinder, and what did you think of me when we first met? So we met, after we met, we decided to meet up at McCormick and Schmidt's, which is no longer in business, but it's in it's in Manhattan Beach-ish.
Yeah, it was.
Right? Yeah. And then we met for like a happy hour. So I was coming after work when I was still working at Cintas, and yeah, we met and just I think we had like appetizers and drinks, but yeah, what was your first impression of me?
Let me think. This is
I was young too, right? I was 26.
Yeah, you were young. You were young. I'm 5 years older than you. Yeah, you were young, but like you definitely had this kind of like you wanted to be professional and like
wanted.
You're trying to be professional. You were already in like a management position and stuff, which I respected at that time.
Oh yeah, you better respect me. Sorry, I'll shut up.
So yeah, but just for the same things, you're like outgoing and personable. You're fun to hang out with and stuff.
Babe, can I tell them, if we can cut this if not, but can I tell them about the list I found on your phone?
Oh yeah, I don't care.
Okay. I think it's so funny. Okay, so I think it was about a year into us dating, and you had given me your phone to look something up in your notes. And when I opened it up, I saw my name like somewhere in the notepad. And I was like, the fuck is this? And so I click it and I see it's a list of girls' names. And I think there was like 5. And you had the name of the person. So it'd be like Shannon, and it'd be like where they grew up or like what they did. And then me, there was a cow next to my name because I'm from Bakersfield. So you had like that was your reminder. And then like I worked at Cintas, and like you had like 3 or 4 little facts about me. And at first, like I got that weird fluttery like thing in my heart of like, oh my gosh, like this is so weird. Yeah, what's going on? And then I just asked you, I was like, what the hell is this? And you just started laughing. You were like, oh, like I was dating like a lot of girls at the time when I met you, so I had to keep everyone straight. But then I found it like really endearing because I was like, you wanted to know or remember like what I was about so you could like continue really good conversation.
Sure. Well, you know what's funny is that probably a more organized person would have deleted that note after we started dating for these kind of purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was dating a couple people at the time, and
yeah,
you know, it's a real like you have to kind of take a step back in the conversation when you're constantly like, what do you do? Who are you again? Like, what do you kind of, you know? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make those notes. And make sure I remembered.
Ryan, why don't you tell them where you were living at the time that I met you?
Oh yeah. So I was living in my ex-girlfriend's mom's house. And it's not as spicy as that sounds. Definitely not as spicy as that sounds.
Oh, it's spicy.
So when I came back from Chile, my ex-girlfriend's mom was from Chile, right? And so my ex had moved to the East Coast, and I had moved back to the West Coast, and I was living there prior to moving to Chile. And so when I came back, I was looking for a place to stay, blah, blah, blah. She said, hey, why don't you come back, live here for a couple months, right? And so I did that, and it's kind of hard to beat. It's like right there on the beach and everything.
It was
very cool.
So nice. I was so bummed when you left. I was like, you can't just stay here and I can come over and we can like watch the sunset because it's right on the beach. It was so nice. And now, funny enough, that's like our dream, like maybe not that house home, but that's our dream place that we want to buy a home is Playa del Rey.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you came over, and then eventually I moved out, and then we moved in Playa Vista.
And then we moved in like super quickly because the traffic was so bad for you. And then we just kind of figured like if it doesn't work out, but let's just try it. And then look at us now. I don't know if people know this. We did spend a year together in an RV, which is like you get to know someone real well.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to career-wise, like that's when we left LA. So after I came back from Chile, I was in LA for... what did we do, like 3 years there?
Couple years, yeah.
Like 3 years. And then, so we got this idea to buy an RV in a big ass truck and basically go around the country for a little while. And so, so with that journeyman ticket, I had already tested. So the way that it kind of works as a journeyman, you test at other companies when you want to change companies. Mm-hmm. So as a journeyman, you go through their, it's somewhat like a rodeo, somewhat like a competition, and you're scored and graded on things, and you're asked questions, there's interviews, there's tests, verbal tests, there's written tests, and then there's a physical test as well. And so you kind of show them your skills and all those things. So I'd already gone through that for the company that I work at now, and then there's like a year-long period that it's good for, that testing period. So between that testing period and my hire date, we had decided to leave my old company, get into the RV, and then we went, I don't know, what did we do, like 10, 15 states, something like that?
Yeah, and Ryan lived off of me because his bitch ass didn't get a job.
Oh, it was glorious.
Well, you didn't have work. You didn't have work. That sounds bad. You didn't decide to work. It was about 4 or 5 months, right? You didn't work, and then that's when you got the call from the company you're at now, and they're like, hey, we need people in the Bay Area, and then that's what kind of brought us up here the first time. I mean, we've kind of done a few rounds, but
Yes, exactly. So I got a call from the company. So I had applied to be a troubleman, and so kind of a breakdown of what a troubleman is. So a troubleman is a lineman, but it's like after you've been a lineman for at least a couple of years, you have to be at least 2 years in most companies. Mm-hmm. So I think I was a lineman for like 4 or 5 at that period. So you applied from the outside, which is kind of unheard of, outside the company, to be a troubleman. So I kind of jumped at that opportunity.
And you, just so a troubleman, you climb alone, or you do your things alone, whereas like typically a lineman will work on a crew with people.
Yeah, exactly. So you respond
Don't
to
worry, I
electrical
can explain your job for you. It's fine.
So you respond to electrical emergencies. So like a good example would be when a car hits a pole, power lines go down, transformer explodes, anything with wires down, storms happen, all those things, right? So a troubleman will respond, and they'll be like the first responder for the situation. And so what your job at that point is to make the situation safe for everybody, whether it's, electrically clearing the scene, all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of times what's interesting about being a troubleman is that you're making all these decisions on your own. So there's a lot of groupthink that happens either on the line crew and even like, let's take firemen, sometimes cops and stuff like that. Obviously not to take away from what they're doing, but like as a troubleman, you're just going out there and you're making those decisions on your own while everybody else is kind of standing back because there's nobody else there to do that job for you. So it's pretty fun. It can be stressful for the most part though. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah. But
I'm gonna hit you with a big question here.
Sure.
When are you proposing?
I knew it was going to be a joke question. So let's see. We've done 7 years. I don't know.
Break this down for us. What's the process of
There's still a lot of more trials and tribulations to go through. So like maybe if you play your cards right, give you like another 7-ish years, 7 to 10.
Oh my God.
How old are you now? Let's see before you're 40.
Okay. I'm 31 in case you didn't know my age.
Yeah.
Okay, this goes the same hand in hand. What's your biggest ick about me? I can tell you mine right now about you. You want to know?
Biggest ick. So let me think.
I don't even have to think about it.
Oh, I've got a big ick for you.
Okay.
So sometimes you just don't plan things. So like, okay, for instance, okay, you went to, so we have an Airbnb up north in Oregon. And so somebody forgot to check the weather going through the passes. And so she's got a front wheel drive car. And so she finds herself in a snowy pass and wheels just spinning because she has no traction, no tread, and no chains at the time.
Pretty bad. No chains. And I didn't have any service. I was just in my car sliding. I had my wheel turned
you were
like
just
all
calling
one
me
way,
crying.
And I was crying and I'm like calling you and calling my dad, and they're both like, "We can't do anything for you. You're just gonna have to like not die." I'm like, "Okay, sick." Okay, that's not an ick though. I mean, that is, and I did plan. Seriously, who checks the weather like route? You check the weather of where you're at and where you're going, but check like it's not. It's not typical.
Own a property in Oregon where it snows.
I know, but it's not typical to like check the route that you're. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone in this. Fine. Maybe that's a good ick. Whatever. Okay, let me tell you mine. Okay. I got a lot, but I'm just gonna go with one. My biggest ick with you is that you do this thing where like if it's you come home from work or we'll come home from the bars at night. Anytime we come home, you love to like kick off your shoes. Just wherever you are, right? It's like you don't go to your room and take off your shoes. You don't leave them at the front door. Would be normal. You kick them off wherever you're standing or sitting or whatever, and then you also take off your socks. Yes. And then you just leave your socks there.
Gotta let the dogs bark.
It is so gross. And then, of course, I have to pick up these disgusting men's socks. Literally just thinking about it. Such an ick. Such an ick. But
yeah, I can see that.
If you just went to your room, we have separate rooms. So he can live his life in a dirty boy manner. And I have the downstairs master. So I have like my skincare routine, my life. Everyone's like, we know you don't actually have a skincare routine. We know you. Whatever I want to do down there. I watch all the reality TV I want. Like you just keep your dirty boy stuff to the upstairs bedroom. I don't understand why it has to be in the living room. That's all I'm saying. Not that I want to cause a fight on my podcast, but like, let's get it. Let's unpack it.
Yeah, there's no changing that. You're just going to have to kind of, maybe we buy some tongs to be able to.
Oh my God.
But I really like our setup though, where you have your one room, I've got my one room. It's great. It started when I was working swing shift, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so,
because he would get home at like 11 or 12, sometimes like 2 a.m. And I would be so irritated because obviously he's coming to bed and he's waking me up. And then I would get up way earlier than him because he didn't have to go to work until 1 p.m. the next day. So he needed to sleep in a little bit. And I would be up early because I'm that kind of girl. And I just like, I wanted your eyes to roll.
Podcasters couldn't hear my eye roll right there.
Yeah. And so we were like, well, why don't you just stay in the other room? And then it just turned into, why don't you keep all of your clothes in the other room? And then it was like, why don't we just live in the other room? Your bathrooms. So yeah, now that's I'm great. Like, I love it so much. And then I sent you that article about how like it's such a common thing. Like people are happy and happier many of the times, like living in separate spaces. And I feel so lucky that I don't have to clean up after you, like in our bedroom, right? Like, cause that would kind of irritate me because I keep my bedroom decently clean. I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying.
I like just saying decently clean is a very loose term, but you are cleaner than I am. Let's say
yeah. I'm not saying I'm clean. I'm just saying wait, there's a difference. I'm organized, not clean. So like everything's in its spot and organized, but there's probably a lot of dirt on the floor because I only vacuum like once every 2 months. But
2 GSPs.
Yeah, we got a lot. And they're actually being quiet right now, which thank God.
I think they're asleep. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in there. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you want people to know about you? Because you're probably like, no, I don't even want to be here. Or about us, or how much you love me, and like when you're going to propose. We are going to Scotland this year, just saying. Seems like a great place. No.
A lot of things already planned in Scotland. That's kind of I don't know. No, I mean, I guess, for the apprenticeship, just to kind of give people a realistic understanding of what that might mean. So you do have to go to school nowadays. You have to go to this climbing school. Mm-hmm. And you also have to pass that and then pass a series of tests before you can be hired as an apprentice.
Do you have to pay for climbing school?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so you do have to pay. So it's like paying to go to college, but I'm assuming it's less expensive than. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you pay. I mean, there's some different programs. I think they're about a year long.
Okay.
It's been like 15 years since I've been doing that, but yeah, so they're about a year long, and nowadays you have to go through one of these schools to get hired on as an apprentice. And then, let's say the school is usually about a year long waiting list. And then once you go through the school, there is probably about a year until you're hired, as long as you get the interviews and stuff like that. Nice. And then it's 4 years after that through your apprenticeship, and then you become a journeyman. And then that's when the real learning actually starts, because, in your apprenticeship, you're kind of in a bubble.
Yeah, you're like learning, not as hands-on.
Well, you're learning. You have somebody watching you and basically telling you what to do and making sure, quote unquote, making sure you don't get into any hairy situations.
Yeah.
Once you become the journeyman, now you're teaching the apprentices, and in the trade, that's kind of when your career actually begins.
Got it. So why did you decide to get into line work? Like, what was that?
Yeah. So, a friend of mine, my best friend, he's also a lineman. And we played football together and did all the things together, grew up together and stuff. His mom, and actually his dad was a lineman prior too. So his mom had seen kind of who I was and where I was at the time. I was living in Arizona, running a business and working. And so she's like, hey, I think you'd be good at this. I think you might want to apply to this, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of saw what my friend's lifestyle was like. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. He likes it. And like, we kind of are into the same things. And, coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, I don't know. But him being a lineman, his dad was actually struck by lightning. And he passed away from that. So kind of ironic that you work on electricity and then you pass away from electricity. But so his mom was kind of on this, I don't know if it's like a mission, but she was kind of just helping out the boys that were in her son's lives. And so, so she's kind of helped out a lot of Southern California linemen kind of get their start in the trade.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I started with it.
If you could go back, would you do anything different? Like, would you not be a lineman?
No, I mean,
you're really thinking about this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking about it. No, I love the trade. It's a lot of fun, especially with my role as a troubleman. As a lineman, I liked it, but there was just like a lot of dynamics that I couldn't account for and manage, like crew personalities and things like that. But as far as like, a lot of people go to college and they have to pay for a degree, and they learn and kind of come out the other end and start working at the end. But you kind of get paid to go to college essentially here in this trade.
Yeah.
And so it works out like that. I mean, if you want to change, like if you want to be a neurosurgeon or something like that, you definitely need to go to college, right? Like,
That wasn't your path?
no, not my path.
That's funny.
I mean, I wouldn't change it. I really like what I do nowadays. It's fun. I get to solve puzzles all day, and the medium's just electricity.
One thing I love about you is your mind. Like, you think so like big picture, and then you can like bring that down and then like understand the process of everything. Like, you call yourself, and I call you like a problem solver. It's like no matter what the problem, it's like how to figure that out. And what I love is that like, so the recruiting business that we work in together, I come from a recruiting background, so I'm always recruiting and stuff like that. And so the reason I brought you in, and we are 50-50 on the business, is that you bring so much of those like high level thinking ideas, because you've had 3 successful businesses? Yeah. Maybe kind of 4, like with flipping houses and stuff, but technically I guess 3. And like, so much about the process of owning a business and the marketing behind it. And like, he's even the one that is building our website right now. Like, it's things that like you wouldn't assume a lineman would know. Like, you bring so much like to the business, and I'm just like, wow, I'm getting soft, but yeah, I'm so grateful that we get to do this together.
We are. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think it has to do with just figuring things out as I kind of went along, especially with owning different businesses and stuff, and there's nobody there to teach you these things. So I read a lot.
A lot. Oh my God.
A lot. And so when I'm by myself at work nowadays, I can just listen to Audible books. But I think it's just come from having to figure things out. Like, when I moved down to South America, there was no diagram or blueprint for that, but you have to do all the planning for what you're going to need, where to find the services, how to get all your stuff down there, where to go to get the stuff after it's, been shipped down there, and then, learn the language, assimilating to the culture, all those
Honestly,
things, right? It's like,
you know more about creating a business than I do, and I have an MBA. Like, I went to school to learn how to be an entrepreneur and business owner, and like, yes, I did learn things, but like the real life experience. So like, anyone listening that's like wanting to start a business and feels like, oh, I don't have the education behind me of like, going to school to do that, to be an entrepreneur, like, I just don't think that that's even a thing. I think if you really put your mind to it, especially with as much information as there is out there now, there's just so much that you can learn on your own. And the amount of books that your mind has the amount of books that are in your mind is wild.
Yeah, like a good example would be through when I was an apprentice, I created an app on an iPhone app for linemen. And so the way I did that is I read a book about it. And so it wasn't actually me sitting there and like, programming and stuff, but it taught you how to outsource all this stuff, like how to kind of lay it out in a way that was easily understood by any kind of company that you're working with. So yeah, I've since taken the app down, but it was like, a very simplistic thing that I read literally one book about. And then from there followed the process, and then kind of, made my own process to kind of fit into my lifestyle. And then an app came out, right? So it's pretty cool. So people all over the world downloaded it and stuff.
That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's so cool. Usually this is the time where I say like, oh, where can people find you? But they can't find you.
No, good luck. Good luck finding me.
Well, he even goes by a different name. Ryan is his middle name.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You're so mysterious, babe.
That's true. I mean, yeah, I guess if you search me, you could probably deep dig on LinkedIn or something. We have our business. I'm a totally different person on LinkedIn too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you should find him on LinkedIn. That's so funny. Connect with him. Actually, don't connect with him. I'll find you. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Okay, I think that's it. I mean, I could sit here and just let you compliment me more, but I don't know if you have anything left in you.
I was all out.
Yeah. Okay.
The Wells Regiment.
Okay.
This has been fun.
This is fun. I'm excited to play Call of Duty in about 20 minutes together.
Yeah.
That's been our kick right now. We played this Call of Duty like the zombies version. What is it? Resident Evil? Is that no?
Something like that.
Shadows of Evil?
3.
Death?
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds great.
We don't have any kids, so
right.
all we have is dogs.
Yeah.
So we have
and
time to do.
We play Call of Duty together. That's our hobby together. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And
yeah, thanks.
I love you so much. And
I love you too.
Thanks for listening to that Onomy podcast. Onomy is a creator-led educational platform that teaches you the things you wished you learned in school so you can thrive in adulthood. Onomy lessons are completely free and they're taught by some of your favorite creators from around the internet. Head to onomy.co to start learning about things like budgeting, investing, taxes, how to thrive in your relationships, how to find your dream job, and so much more. That's onomy.co, onomy.co. See you there.